Alright, so today we're going to be working on something that sort of can be considered definitely non-vanilla, but something that I think we should really definitely have in vanilla itself is a way to farm Deepslate. Now I know in 1.18 and stuff like that, there's definitely more layers of Deepslate to get, but unfortunately in 1.17, which we are currently in, there isn't really a way to get a large quantity of Deepslate. Mainly because the quarries don't usually go down there because you just have to stay above Y11, so you don't have to deal with the lava and obsidian that would form naturally like that. That's why I kind of set above that for a quarry. So there's really no way for us to get large quantities of Deepslate because we are on AutoCraft, and you know that we specialize, or at least me and a couple other members specialize in AutoCrafters. We have thought of a way for us to get Deepslate sort of fully automatic. However, there is obviously a downside, and we had to make our own non-vanilla crafting recipe, which isn't too hard to do. Our members Glock created a very simple recipe that is sort of the easiest recipe you can ever do because it's universal. What that means is no matter how you input the items into a recipe in the crafting table here, it will always craft it. So kind of similar to how concrete powder works, where you can have the sand and gunpowder in any certain orientation, and the dye could be anywhere, and it would still craft that concrete powder. For our example, something I thought of was to use basalt and a bit of cobblestone. If I can find that in our own main storage, because I still do not, to this day, do not know where it is there. And the other item that I suggest we do, because it's not fully 100% easily farmable at the same time, that way we can't technically just completely automate Deepslate farming, which would be kind of a little bit overpowered. This way we have to kind of do something else to get the Deepslate instead, is blackstone. And something else that Glock also did was if we used actual stone instead of cobblestone, we'll get the non-cobbled Deepslate. So let's go show this off. So what the recipe is basically it can be any 4 combination of cobblestone. We'll do it this way because this is the vanilla for the concrete powder, and 4 basalt. If we actually had the datapack on the server currently, we currently only have it on this creative server. That way we could test these things out and prepare a lot of stuff like that. So this would craft it, this would craft it, this would craft it. Any orientation you have it will craft it. It's a universal crafting recipe, which is very nice to do. It makes the auto crafting sequence really easy to do. But however, when I did my auto crafting sequence, it basically ended up being like this. Something along those lines that makes it look a little bit clean in a sense. Maybe a little bit different, but that's how it ended up looking. And it was a pretty fast crafter itself because we do get 8 Deepslate with this. Now it's kind of a little bit controversial that we get 8 Deepslate. I was thinking about doing just 1 for per blackstone. That way you get 1 blackstone and give you 1 Deepslate. However, we decided to go very similar to the concrete powder recipe in the sense that where you get 1 dye with the 4 sand and the 4 gravel, you would get 8 concrete powder. That's kind of what we did with that. And the same thing here. So this one, we're using cobblestone. I thought that would make sense to give us cobbled Deepslate. And then if we were to use the stone for the same recipe with the basalt and the blackstone, you would get the regular Deepslate that is not, which you usually get by silk touch. However, you can't really automate stone production without a player, so the whole goal here is to automate it without a player, of course, without getting the blackstone, because you would need a gold farm for that, then a bartering area, then just transfer over to that. So it's a whole big process. So something I suggested just do the cobblestone one, because with the cobblestone one, you can actually craft the required materials. With the regular Deepslate, you wouldn't be able to craft any of that stuff. So that's kind of like a breakdown of what we're actually doing today and why we're actually doing it. If we were to upgrade to 1.18, it's highly unlikely. We would get rid of this because we would probably want to get rid of it. We just probably wouldn't use the farm anymore because this is, it's more feasible to get Deepslate in large quantities in the 1.18, but we don't really have any plans to do that currently. So yeah, we're gonna go dig out an area. I think we need about 7, we don't really need 7 by 7 chunks. It's basically in the shape of a rectangle. So like, I think it's like 5 by 3 would be the required area for the chunk loading part of the farm. And something else we did, we need to design our own cobblestone and basalt farms because we don't need too fast of a thing. Basically, we'll be able to craft 72,000 Deepslate per hour at its full potential. However, that will take a while to fill up all the buffers for the crafters, and we also had to design a crafter too, which was also really fun to design for me currently. So yeah, let's go dig out the required area. Alright, so what we'll also have to do is design the piston bolt to this location. However, we're still a little bit close to the area that we're working on another project right now. So I don't want to actually do a piston bolt yet to figure out, you know, you'll get guessed over there what's going on. But yeah, I don't really want to interfere with the portal linking too much, even though this portal links perfectly fine where we're going. So we have the area completely dug out as well, and we're starting on the decoration, which is basically just a giant Deepslate on the wall here. Now, it's not the cleanest things I've ever, because obviously you can see one side is longer than the other two sides. However, that's not too big of a deal. It still looks kind of cool, and there's a couple of the holes in the wall. So what we need to do is finish the decoration up, which I'm going to do on stream today, hopefully. I might not get all of it done, but then we can actually start building the actual farm, which would be really nice to get this all in. And the floor is going to just like a random pattern of an image I found. It kind of fits the, you know, the theme of what we're going on, so the black, white, and the gray. Definitely goes really well with the actual Deepslate colors of that. So yeah, this will be done hopefully very, very soon, and we actually get a time lapse of actually building the farm here, which is something that looks kind of strange to some people, but just kind of how I wanted to keep it in such a small area. It kind of got really tall. But yeah, we'll go finish the decoration here, and then we'll get on building the farm. So a bit of time has passed, and we finally have our piston bolt to that location for the factory that we're going to be building today. But yeah, so this was something that I didn't want to do originally, but because of the other project not being completed yet, so we're kind of working on two projects at once. It's kind of a bit of a thing we're doing for right now, because that other project did take quite some time to do. So I wanted to do this one. This one's a short project. Basically did this myself. But since I've been working and my game's been constantly crashing because of something when I spawn a bot, I don't know, the error code. It only works when I spawn a bot. So if I spawn a bot and like a couple minutes later, I'll crash. Don't know. The code reads Starlight and Voxel Map, which I both re-downloaded the latest version of, and I'm still doing that issue whenever I spawn a bot for some weird reason. But yeah, I couldn't tell you what it is. But yeah, so piston bolt's done. I think a couple of the people, the members of the server, did do this. I tried to stream, and then like not even an hour. It was crashing every 5 minutes, so I just gave up. And some of the members worked on the piston bolt for me, so I definitely appreciate that from them guys. Or else this video will not be out when it is. It's still gonna be late, but it'll still be out on Saturday, which is good. But yeah, so we have the Deepslate banner here. There is better ones, but we don't currently have the globe pattern. So we kind of had to do this one, which is kind of like the reinforced Deepslate, which is we added in 119. Yes, we're still in 117, but this is like best way I could symbolize it without going out, spending hours getting the glow pattern. I think this works for now. Just like any other piston bolt that we have on the server, we have the design on the wall to signify sort of where you're going. So cobblestone, basalt, and some of the blocks that are like Deepslate colors. And if it gets the theme across, you have the blue lights or like a little bit of light, but as you can see, it doesn't give us any block light or stuff like that. But it doesn't matter too much because we all pretty much use gamma override. And it doesn't really matter too much because we have the mob switch on. So yes, of course, we'll have to spawn proof everything at some point when we really want to do it, but at this point in time, there's no real reason to because of the mob switch. Just like all of our other piston bolts, we have the return on the back. So basically, what we do is we go to destination, and then once we want to go back, we have another bolt on top of it to do the return back to the hub, which also does work. Alright, so now that we have the actual piston bolt done, which we just saw in the last clip, as well as the time lapse of the actual Deepslate factory, in a sense, be completed, we have everything that is needed with our also addition of the chunk loader, so we don't actually need a player here, which is even better. So yeah, that's the whole reason for the dig, the small little dig that we did to make it a full perimeter, because the farm is just, you know, playerless and it's just only a couple of chunks wide. There's really no need to make a full-blown perimeter when we can just do something like this. So yeah, still need to do something to connect it all up, but for now, this works. So we go down here, this is the actual player portal. Unfortunately, because of how I designed the area, the player portal has to be down, just like how it is for the piston factory. The player portal is lower and the chunk loaders are higher. In hindsight, you can make the chunk loaders lower, and that way you can have your player portal up higher, so that it'll link to the top first, because how portals work, you don't know. Portals take into consideration y-axis before x and z. So if you have a portal up there, for example, for our player portal, it'll link to the chunk loading portal because the chunk loading portal in the overworld is higher than the player portal is, which is all the way down there. It's because our player portal at the factory is at y37. This one will link to that one and not go to the chunk loaders, and the chunk loaders themselves will stay linked to their own individual chunk loader portals. Some very useful information if you haven't known that already, but yeah, we'll go through this portal here. We will arrive at our Deepslate factory that I have been designing, as well with the help of Henrik with the actual cobble and Deepslate little farms here. So these are our design. Henrik mainly did the main bulk of the wiring and stuff like that, and the TNT duping, timing, and the collection, stuff like that's all by me. But Henrik for the main actual layout and everything like that. Not the fastest farms, they're only 14,000 an hour per module. However, we don't really need them to be that fast because we're only going to craft a certain amount of Deepslate here for lag purposes. Basically, we wanted this to run completely in the background without causing like any MS to the server at all. Let me tell you, it doesn't affect the MSBT. It's probably maybe 1 or 2 MS on the server, which is basically nothing. But yeah. So what we got here is we have our UI as well as our main control panel here. So these ones will be the force chunk load and on switches. And then we have the the basalt and the cobble generators both on their own separate on-off switches. Then we have shulker box input for the actual main shulker box loaders, as well as the Deepslate loaders down here. And then we have our output here, which is our crafted Deepslate. And this was an adaptation that Dazi made for the loader that I did, or the shulker box display that I showed in the last, basically my bulk decrafter. Dazi just made it toggle stateless, which is pretty good, making use of a fallen edge circuit there. It's really, really good for people that don't like toggle states, but personally, I don't mind it, but I know people that do. So what we got here is we got our blackstone inputs. So if you don't remember the recipe from earlier, you can actually look it up. Regular Deepslate is 4 stone, blackstone, and 4 basalt. The cobble Deepslate variant, which is cobblestone, basalt, and blackstone. So only difference is we use stone if we want the regular non-cobble Deepslate. But personally, that's not too much of an issue. We don't really want that one because you can't craft anything with the non-cobble Deepslate. So yeah, basically as simple UI as I could possibly do. We have lamp indicators for here. So if the lamp is actually on, which it is for the blackstone for both of the crafters here, there's 2 different crafters per wing. This one is requesting blackstone for the system. So that means we have the cobblestone and basalt stocked up, but we need blackstone, which is the manual input here. And the reason why we just chose to do blackstone for our input is basically because that way we don't make it fully automatic. We have to go get stuff from barter. Well, yes, you technically could make this fully automatic. Having a gold farm and then having a barter area really adds a lot of lag to the server. So this is like our semi-automatic way to do it. Because we have so much blackstone, we could basically run this thing infinitely already because of bartering, but there's really no need because we only need it for our next project, which is over that direction a little bit. Because we need, well, we first originally needed about 400,000 Deepslate. Now with some minor modifications, I say minor, but we've put off like 200,000 Deepslate, so we only really need 200,000 Deepslate, which still I guess could be feasible in survival, but I just don't really think anybody would want to mine that much Deepslate on the server. And especially in 1.17, there's really only these like minor pockets here that you get with 1.17 generation, so you have to go to a lot of locations just to get that. So personally, this datapack recipe and fit in the AutoCraft theme of being able to AutoCraft the Deepslate here, yeah, definitely fits very, very well for me personally. So yeah, this AutoCrafter is actually 36,000 per hour, and we have 2 of them, which means we can have a max crafting speed of 72,000 Deepslate per hour, which is something that really is definitely more than we needed, but it was also extremely simple to design, everything like that. So on and all, it's a nice little factory just in case we never need a lot of Deepslate. We can then just use this factory for a little bit. And yeah, so personally, I do like how it turned out. Very, very simple and compact. It could be more compact because I did realize later down the line, we only really need 3 of the farms because you can see here, if you go to the chest here, they have a back supply of materials, which we definitely overestimated how much the crafters would be using. So we put 2 extra farms. In hindsight, you only need these 3 in the center here, and then you could actually compact the crafters down a little bit to make it so that they're within that area. But it doesn't really matter too much. It's still the same amount of area that's getting chunk loaded anyway, so it doesn't make too much of a difference in the end. So yeah, we're gonna get some blackstone, and then we'll actually show the crafters working in action. Alright, got some blackstone. Definitely didn't fall to my death here. So we definitely need to finish something here, or else this is could be a death trap for some people if you don't fly with your elytra. But yes, I got some blackstone. We're just gonna put it in here. We have 8 boxes. It'll get split up evenly between all of the crafters here, which we should then see this light turn off. And which is also something that's I really like as well, is that the crafters here, it was a bit loud, but they are fully automatic. There is no player input to turn the crafter on or off. The crafter will be on and off automatically by itself. And also, with that safety feature, we don't need to worry about the crafters breaking because they will turn off automatically if they do run out of items, which is also a very, very nice feature to have. So it uses the same concept as my Piston Factory version 3 of where the text based off this chest here. So once the last shulker box gets dispensed, basically, we turn the crafter off. That way there's no way that the crafter can break because it still has all of this buffer down into the crafter. And we'll go to the crafter table here to see. You can see the recipe is fully universal, so we don't need to fill it any way that we want, and it'll still work. Personally, I like how this actually recipe turned out, where it goes 1 to 1 and then 1 to 1 again. Looks a little bit clean, in my opinion, and also is 36,000 per hour. You can see you can definitely increase the speed here, but just for simplicity, I wanted to keep it basically this crafter I already designed, and I just changed it a little bit to make it a bit more compact. Because some of the things I did earlier with this crafter before, you definitely don't need to do, so made it a little bit more compact, and that we just added 2 2x shulker box loaders here, so you can see just how fast. Imagine this getting filled 4 times. So we could have very easily just done an 8x shulker box loader down in the middle here, keep it separated between each crafter. We just did two 2x loaders, very clean. We will also just turn on the farms themselves. We should also mention that there is nothing for when the crafters are crafting to have the chunk loaded on. So if you want to keep the crafters on, I would definitely turn this on to the forced chunk loading. That way those chunk loaders are active in when we need them to be, basically. So yeah, this forced chunk loading on here keeps this redstone block here. So usually it would be just an observer powering that piston so that it would go back down once the farm turns off. So if you have the forced chunk loading on, this will keep it on no matter what is going on. So we'll turn the 2 farms on here. So you can see just how simple these farms are. Nothing over the top, no block 36s. You can see that some blocks get pushed down right as block 36, right as the TNT explodes basically, but that wasn't planned at all to do. So there's this very simple farm, very compact. Definitely thanks to Henrik for doing the majority of the work here for this farms. And you can see these in the public archive themselves in the Discord link down below. So if you wanted to use these farms, you can do that. Fortunately, this full schematic will not be released. If you do want to get access to it, you can via the Patreon. If you didn't know, I'll plug the Patreon right here, show you some of the tiers, stuff like that that's available. So you can get some stuff like under the schematics, talk to us personally, stuff like that, any of the members, stuff like that. Perimeter decorations, any of these contraptions that we make, all available through the Patreon. If you want to support me, greatly appreciated, and definitely the members that like Dazi and Happy that mainly work on the wall decorations and the storage. If you do select that tier, they do get some of the from that selection. So you don't only help me, you help some of the members individually, as well as keeping the full AutoCraft server operational with maintenance costs and things like that. So yeah, that's gonna do for this video. Make sure you like, subscribe, all sorts of things, and I'll see you in the next one.